Yeah. So yeah, BedX. I made BedX with a friend. His name is Rushil Bhatnagar. He's a visual designer and 3D motion designer. And so he one day we were just chilling and he was just like, cuddling should be called BedX talks, like TEDx talks, because I was just giving my first TEDx that time. Um, and I was like, haha, that's funny. Yeah, so anyway, then he had like a college project where his head of department asked him to make a zine. And because he'd never used zines as a medium before, he wasn't like sure about it. And I knew a lot about zines because I love zines. I have like a huge collection of zines and I'm like an avid collector of zines. I love zines. I love the whole idea of it. It's like an independent publication, so it doesn't go through like the lens of like publication and what like a certain like approved standard of what gets to be published and what doesn't get to be published, because you can publish what you want. So I think it's like a very unconventional way of education per se. And you can, because publication brings in this whole hierarchy of what deserves to be published and what doesn't. And I think that again is a very supremacist view of, spreading education. That's what like the government textbook work, like government textbooks, they choose what you want to read, and like that's a valid mandated form of education, but that's not necessary. And I think zines like are very, they're just amazing, and they go against the status quo and they're fun. And I've made a bunch of zines before I made BedX. So I was like, hey, I can help you. And then we were talking about it. And then we were just like, let's make BedX. So we wanted to make a zine about sex education in India. At first, it was just sex education. That was the topic. And then I was like, let's make it focused towards men. Because for me personally, I feel like a lot of my sex education and even my understanding of a body as a woman has a lot to do with the internet and feminist resources that do exist on the internet today. And largely they do. But I also realize that Indian men in particular do not have any internet resources to access when they feel like they need to ask some questions about sex. Or I don't feel like that's an open conversation that they have with their friends in their circles as well. I feel like if tomorrow I had like, I don't know, some STD or something, I could at least talk to one friend, one woman friend about it. I feel like men have like this whole layer of like, you can't talk about it with your friends. That's just like, hey man, don't talk about that kind of stuff. And I've noticed that like largely. And I thought that that's one thing I needed to that needed to be addressed. So yeah, and again
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
India.
One of the main reasons I'm interested in talking about it is because of that, exactly what you said. I'd never heard of a zine or any sort of thing that was specifically designed for men and was about talking about men's health issues
And also like
in such a unique and like artistic way, at least.
yeah. Yeah, and I definitely think the whole approach that we like, the very limited approach we do have to sexual education at like younger ages for people our age is also very scientifical, very boring. Like you'll read a Wikipedia page and that's not fun. And mostly you won't understand that. And in schools as well, like we
It's
don't.
all treated very
Yeah.
uh, logically or very like coldly. It's not taught to you like something that's very natural or even fun or interesting.
Exactly. Like I like the only sexual education I remember from school, and I went to an SSC school, so like that's the worst of the worst. Is literally this image of a uterus which looks like a scooter, and like that's about it. Like that didn't teach me shit. So for me, it was just like I feel like this was needed to be talked about, and I feel like a lot of, and also BedX talks a lot about not just sexual sex or your body. It talks about sexual context and how Indian society shapes our outlook towards sex, consent, gay sex, everything. It talks about a lot of things, just like so my point of that was just that sex is not just like the activity, it has a lot more to do with it. And I feel like men often are wrong about these things because no one's ever spoken to them, no one's ever given them a chance to have this conversation, have a chance to initiate this conversation. So I felt like this was, like for me, all my life, my whole art is very protest based, very activism based. It's just like in all entirety, me, my personality, my art is to say fuck you. So with BedX, for the first time, I was like, fuck you, but also I'll teach you how to fuck properly. So it was that. But also as a woman, I felt like I am not the smartest person to be giving men advice. So obviously, that's where, like, obviously, it's all a lot of BedX was crowdsourced information, verified, spoken to with experts, came, and also like we
So
spoke
how
to a
did
lot of
you
men in our
like
life.
go about talking, getting that information
Like,
from people?
obviously, I don't understand. So a lot of it started off with like me asking on Instagram. I put up like a question thing, and I was like, I know a lot of women in my life who complain of like pain during sex. Like it's not always a comfortable experience. But is this something that men face as well? Because I've never heard of that. And I got so many responses with that, and I was just like, wow, why is no one talking about this? You know. So we addressed a lot of that. We was just like pain during sex for men. How do you go to a doctor? Men don't even know what doctor you go to like for sexual health. You're supposed to go to a urologist, and and they're sexual health experts as well. And so we spoke about that. We spoke about a bunch of STDs. We spoke about like contraception, cleaning your dick properly. Men don't even. I'm not here to attack men, but like that's one of the things I cover. And so yeah, so then we worked on it, and we went page by page, topic by topic. We had to select what we wanted to talk about. Then obviously then the whole outlook of it is it's very Bollywood based, because I feel like Bollywood has for years projected this idea of men being like, you know, manly, and is very homophobic, and so they're just like
There's
this
a lot
whole
of
like
male ego, male
centered
superiority stuff
propagated.
going
Yeah,
on.
it's just like very stereotypical. And I've often done this with my work, is that I take something which is like problematic per se and use that to reclaim what it goes against. So a lot of it is based in a like we make a lot of Bollywood references. The artworks is very Bollywood based, and it is to take like these these tropes that have existed for centuries, which are not right. And like there are movies like Masti Zade, and like like they're very objectifying of women, and we take that and we talk about topics that we need to talk about. So it was just like a subversion of this classic Bollywood imagery. So there was that, and also like the main character in Bedex Talks is a dick called wow, what's it called? I haven't looked at it in a while. It's a dick called Mr. Dickinson. So he's like the main character who guides you through the sex guide. So he's talking to you throughout it. So that's fun. And yeah, I felt like it was in a language that people could understand, and it was funny. And I think humor is a really powerful tool. And I feel like the way we talk about sex also needs to change. Like the moment you talk about it really like with like like we're so scared of it, you're automatically like you're taking it away from it. You already are tabooizing it. And like I gave a TEDx talk about BedX, which was where I'm talking about like how teachers in schools talk about it, and that needs to change. And this is why I made this scene, because a person my age doesn't want to hear a sex talks from someone who's like 40 years old, haven't had sex in 10 years. So like, I mean, I'm having sex, I tell you like, this is what's good. And also this is the way we should be talking to it to people. Like this is made for like 14 plus. Like
Yes,
13, 14
this
years
it has to be for a young audience, because those are the people who need it.
Those are people who need it, and it's definitely a conversation, and that teachers aren't having it, and also parents are not having it. So so I felt like a lot of people who bought BedX were people who were buying it for their younger siblings, and they thought like they needed it, which I thought was really great. And I gave a TED talk at like one of my like my rival school ke colleges mein, like at my rival school. And I was like a huge flex for me. I was just like, huh. So anyway, but also after that, I had like a bunch of educators come up to me and be like, you know what, you're right. This is how we should be talking about sex. And people were like, we really want to integrate this into like a textbook or like into part of our curriculum. And I was just like, wow. Like I really want to get back to those people and actually work on BedX becoming something more than what it is. But yeah, definitely saying that there is scope for such things to be integrated into curriculum was really important, because what, all people who go to schools aren't going to have a job, but they're all going to have sex mostly. So why is this not an important thing? Like why are you not teaching this in schools? So I feel like it's very important, and definitely BedX is okay. Put this
Okay.
personally, to me, BedX was really important. Like I really, really believe sex education is important. That it would have saved me years of trauma if someone in school
Yeah.
gave me a bed.
Absolutely. It could have for so many people, it can change so many huge events in their lives by just like one piece of information.
Exactly. So definitely in the future, I want BedX to be like an online resource probably, where it's probably a very interactive site, because who wants to
Yeah.
read like some boring Wikipedia on how to something something. I just wanted to be a more fun interactive page, a website on the internet perhaps, or I want it integrated into curriculum, work with educators on seeing how this can work, or even like launch more editions of the book, because there's no end to the amount of things that we need to be talking about.
Yeah. And I'm definitely rooting for more editions of the book because I just fell in love with it. So now we're back on. And we're not talking about any uh any people who we should not be talking about. Just as a okay. So going from Bed Talks, which is a zine, I wanted to talk to you about Zine Fest and your experiences with Zine Fests, because I have a little bit of a unique experience for this, is where so my mom makes handmade greeting cards. Yeah, she's been doing it for many years now, and we've done
That's lovely. Oh my god.
three Kalagoda art fairs.
Wow, okay.
So we've held a stall at Kalagoda 3 times.
Right.
I mean, mostly it's all her. She just sits for like months beforehand and just makes stock for all the shops. But over the last 2 times that we did, because I got into like started doing photography more professionally and was studying it and all, I was selling my photos there as well. And like I have my opinion on it is like it can be really fun and really rewarding to like see people directly interacting with your stuff, but it's probably one of the biggest slogs I've ever done in my life. So like I wanted to know what your experiences were with all the like different fests that you've done, because I've seen that you've done a few, and like similar thing with workshops also. But then like, we'll talk about the Zine Fest first.
So I've done a bunch of zine fest, like about 5, 6 for sure. There's like Bombay Underground that started with it, Bombay Underground zine fest, which is definitely smaller than now what Gacy does, which is much more commercial, much more bigger, and all of that. But my experience with zine fest is just always that it's not even about like me like selling my zines. It's more about like just getting to see other artists. Like I grew from that. Like you saw other artists, you saw the kind of paper they use, how they print, what they're talking about, and you're just like, okay, this also exists. Because it's a very rising culture, and there's not a lot to go back on. Like, so obviously you learn every time, every new zine fest you learn something new, so it's always fun. And also you get to interact with other artists, and people coming and seeing your work and telling you good things is always the best feeling. But also I feel like it's very new, like the culture is really new, so people don't really get what zines are. So like a lot of questioning about like what are zines, what is this about, and some people are just like, हाँ 300 रुपए पेपर के लिए कौन देगा, and
Oh my god, yeah. Absolutely.
yes. So I think a lot of fun is about just like seeing, like every year you get more people coming in at Zine Fest, and that's fun. And I honestly go so I can. So there's at Zine Fest there's a culture where you swap zines. Like I'll go to another artist and be like, for this zine, will you give me another zine? And we just exchange, and that's a lot of fun. And I think it's great impetus to storytelling. I think we are always in any time of the universe looking for stories to be told, and this is such a fun way. And like there's so much scope to it. There's like how you like fold your paper makes a difference. How you package it makes a difference. How you print it makes a difference. Where you're going to print it makes a difference. Like there are like I want to once like do a like I'm showing you my zines thing. Like I have so many zines and they're all so interestingly done. Like there's one.
I really wanted to do that after the discussion. It's just I want to go through your entire zine collection.
So there's like I have like one zine. It's by the Unnamed Zine Project. It's called I don't know what's it called, but the point of it is that you need to destroy it to be able to read it. Like
wow.
how smart is that? Like,
To be able to read
tear
it.
up to be able to read it. Like,
Oh.
and some ideas are just brilliant, and it's about the most weirdest topics. Like, you would never think that someone took the time out to talk about this, but they did. Like, I have one zine about lice. Where do you find like literature about lice? I have a whole
That's very
yeah,
cool.
I have a whole zine about like what to do when you have lice. Um, yeah, and it's
That's
called
great, dude. That
it's called
reminds me
Lice
so much
Friends
of
Paper.
like underground publications or like underground radio. It's like the visual,
Exactly.
physical version of that.
This, and that's exactly what zines are. They're underground publications, and they're very niche. So I mean, it's obviously such a great feeling to be part of something like this. And also, zine fests are fun, and I feel like more people are doing them. Like Socials now does like a zine fest, not a zine fest. Like we get artists to come up and put their stuff. Now it's called, I don't know what it's called, but it's by Kranti Art Theory. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Sounds of Kranti one. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they do a lot of shit now. Like recently I went to Supersonic and they had like artist stalls and a lot of people were selling zines. So it's definitely a growing medium, which is great. I'm so glad that I make zines. And also like packaging and paper and printing is the most fun experience. Like just having to go through all that. I'm also part of like a collective called Friends of Friends. So it's my friends and they are friends and we're just like a bunch of friends and we have our own. Like last year when I went to Zine Fest, last year in September when I went for Zine Fest, it was with my collective. I didn't showcase alone, and that was really fun. Like we have a zine called Lost Lighters, which is about where lighters go when they're lost. You know,
Oh wow.
like
Oh
they're
yeah,
at
I remember seeing that.
they're
That
at
was
a
very
rave
good.
party. They're in the Arctic
Yeah,
because like
yeah,
we
yeah.
constantly lose lighters,
I
and then we
really like
also
that.
yeah, and along with that we made stickers, which was like this, like you know the classic lighter K size K stickers, which says if found return to. Like it's so simple, but with every zine of
But
yours,
it's
yeah,
so
it's fun.
unique and like you'd
Yeah.
never seen it and you immediately want it.
Yeah, and we were just like giving those out. We were just like, "Hey, do you want a lighter for your? You want a sticker for your lighter?" And that was really fun. So I feel like a lot of I personally do not do zines for the money. Big, I personally do zines because they're so much fun, and meeting artists is fun, and getting people to interact with your work is really fun as well. But it does make good enough money if you're smart about
If
it.
you, I guess, if you market it well.
Right.
Yeah, definitely, and like especially for like if I bring BedX back in, like we do like online orders for BedX. It's on my site, like unlike my other zines, and it's packaged like well in a box and stuff, which like some zines do, some zines not. But like there's so much like the initial idea for BedX was that I wanted it to be such a small pamphlet that it fits in like a condom box. So we send
Oh
so we
yeah,
make the
yeah.
BedX box look like a condom box and even put
Condom
one
box.
like condom in it. But then we were like, what if the condom we send is torn and then someone does some dumb shit
Yeah.
and then we get held accountable. So we were just like, okay, let's
Yeah.
scrap the condom idea. We're not giving free condoms out. But like also like BedX is really extensive, so we couldn't like I thought I wanted it to be like a fold out pamphlet that I could put into a condom box and like package it that way. But that didn't work out. So now it just has like a normal looking box that you can find on my Instagram. But it's cool, it's a box and it's a really cool box.
How easy or difficult was it to find like the people who'd print and then make the boxes and like make all of that packaging stuff that you need?
Actually not very difficult at all. You know?
So are you doing it through like a site or like someone is
I
there?
go to a printer in Andheri. Andheri East. They are A to Z printers. They're honestly the best printers for like anything. And I give it to them. They finish it off in the evening. I go pick it up and I go. Yeah, and honestly, I don't know why I go to Andheri. Like, you can go to literally any printer and they will print it that way. It's difficult, however, to find printers who will print on the paper you want. A lot of printers have like paper restrictions. They're like, we won't print on this paper. But like, you have to look and also like build like a rapport with your printer and they will print on whatever paper you get them. Like, most of these
Okay.
print
So
shops
what?
are in areas where many printers are together and also stationery shops. So you can just go to the stationery shop, get your paper, give it to them, and they will print. So,
So is there any particular type of paper that you enjoy printing on, especially?
oh, I love printing on handmade paper, like love. But haven't done a lot of it, but I absolutely love. Like I make all my friends' birthday cards and stuff like that. So whenever I'm printing I and there are like papers. Okay, there are a few of my scenes which are printed on like shiny paper, like it has like little glitter and it's little metallic, and I'm just absolutely a fan for that. So there's all of that. So yeah, paper is my biggest, like, I have honestly, like, I have a friend who also is as obsessed with paper as I am, and I've literally been to Zine Fest and I'm just like, oh my god, this paper. Like, I am an absolute paper slut. Like, I just have, sometimes I just like paper, I just buy a sheet. I'm not even going to do anything with it. I just like paper. Yeah.
Oh wow.
I've always been very like intimidated to get into the world of paper. I feel like it's just a lot of information that I'll need to like know about.
No, I don't know. I just like it. And then you think about how the ink will be when you print on it, what colors would look good. You know, wow, I'm such a paper nerd.
But it's good that it ensures a high quality of printing when something goes
And
out.
also, even with BedX, like, I'm not like the most happy with its printing. Like, I feel like it could be printed better. But it's made on a, like, I try my best with, like, with BedX as well. It's priced at $500, which I think is too much for it. But because of how much printing costs and sending it and all of it, it's like I make like half of it, or like less than half of how much it is. Because printing is like $200 or something. So yeah, and then like sending it and stuff. But that's exactly why I wanted to be like an online resource. I want to give it all for free. In the middle, I was just like, can I print it in black and white and give it to people for free? And you know, because that's information that needs to be shared. I don't. Yeah, like, honestly, if I was rich enough to not like charge for things, I'd just give people free things. Like, I just love that.
Absolutely.
This is just a very good point. I completely agree. I would do the same
I
thing.
would just love to do
But
that. Like, I would just make things for the heck of it. Like, honestly, I
Yeah.
have, so I've made merch. Okay, I have like I've put out 2 t-shirts and 1 shirt and BedX on my site, and I have honestly made losses. Like, I've made intense losses because I'm bad at money. Plus, yeah, I am just bad at money and I don't like keep count of anything, and I've just given off free stuff and I'm just like, haha, promo, take it. And also just in general,
but then yeah, even then, as a single solo creator, like handling any sort of merchandise must be insane to deal with because it's like 16 different things.
yeah, which is why the plan for 2020 is to like make a 5-year plan, get a manager on board, get a team, find an angel investor. Because I see potential in my merch. I love creating things. I know people like the things I create. So I definitely want to be more smart about it. The one thing I'm bad at is money and managing things. And also, I have no team that sends out my things. I package everything on my own. So I want to develop packaging better. And there's just like a lot of things I want to do in life. But yeah.
And I understand the feeling and I relate very much. So I know that, I hope that we all get this. But you definitely seem to have like a lot stronger plan than I do.
I mean, I had to do a lot of things, like actually make the merch and put it out and then like be in losses, but also be like, oh, okay, the audience is reacting to this. Like, this is selling.
Yeah.
You know. And also realize, really one thing you need to realize is that when you're making t-shirts, always make more black than white. Because people don't like white t-shirts as much. which is what I didn't predict, because I made a batch of t-shirts where I ordered 50 black ones and 100 white ones, and all the black ones sold out immediately and the white ones are still
Sold
there.
out, yeah. Really? You thought white t-shirts would sell
I
more?
was just like, the white ones look cuter, like, I don't know, I was just like, white hair. But like, that didn't happen, and I feel so stupid for that. But like, now I know. See, and I wouldn't know that if I didn't do like this test run, you know. Made some losses, got some galis from my dad about like wasting my own money. Just like cash.
It's okay. I'm sure I do like both of your shirts that came out, so I can understand why that you might think the white shirt would look better. I mean, and it's the main reason artists need handlers to tell, like, because we are too attached to everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so my last two. Oh no, actually, I want to ask about the India Nama. I don't know if I'm saying it right. I saw the Instagram thing, and just the piece specifically, and the whole experience of like that whole event, because I didn't really understand what that event was really about, and like what they asked you to come and do. But I really enjoyed the piece.
So there's this design company in Delhi called Animal, and they're really good at what they do. And if I was a designer, I'd probably work with them, but I'm not. I mean, I am a designer. I'm just not a good designer. I'm more of an illustrator. And every year I think they've been doing this for about 4 years now, is that they do a thing called, it's called Indianama, where they put out like a call on they put out a theme and what they want, and artists apply for it. And before this, they had like a whole, like a poster on what you think India is. After that, they had a really beautiful project, which was they took a bunch of, also kind of gentrifying, but that's okay. I mean, it's not okay, but that's a critique that exists. But if it was done in the right way, it would have been nice. But also, this project was that they took a bunch of stores across India, and they gave it to artists to rebrand them, like the Bahar Ka board. And it was all like chart stores, grocery stores, all of those rebranded into like, so that's why it's gentrifying, because a lot of like design ideals come from the Western world, and like,
Yeah.
So yeah, but it some of it done was like really beautiful. And I thought it was really fascinating, and ever since I wanted to be a part. So this year when they put out their theme, I was kind of late to apply. That the only theme left was the one I did, which was like Britain gives India $41 trillion,
43 trillion.
$43 trillion as someone did their research, as reparations. Yeah. And so I thought about it. I was just like, what would India do? And I spoke to a bunch of friends, because I feel like, getting a different perspective on things is great,
It's
obviously.
always good.
Yeah. And my friend was just like, if like India had $43 trillion, they would never, like, so when like the economic reforms were happening, and they were happening because India was broke and it owed money to like the World Bank, or what is that?
That I did not
The
research
money organization.
and find out.
What's it called? Okay, yeah. So.
The money organization.
There was something, no. Something, dude, I did. Yeah, okay.
We'll call it the money organization for now.
The World Bank, and what's it called? I can't remember now. But okay, they didn't have money and they needed money, so they asked. So, what is it? What is that organization? Okay, this International Money Organization, whose name I can't remember now. IFM? What is it? Shit, this is really annoying me. Anyway, this organization was like, okay, we'll give you money, but you need to open up your economy. And that's when India bought an LPG, which is liberalization, privatization, globalization.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that happened in 1991 with the economic reforms. And the thing is, if we did have like $43 trillion, that wouldn't happen at that point of time, probably. It obviously, with capitalization over the world, it would happen, say, 20 years down the line. Like maybe in 2020 it would happen. But for the moment, India would remain like with closed economy and highly, like, lot of licensing and all of that. Like licenses would still be going on, and so we'd remain like largely like socialist. So I was like, okay, now I know what would have happened, but how do I translate this visually? How do I make this funny or whatever? So what I did was that we were still, and I remember a lot from like before this time, like with like my parents telling me stories, is that you had to stand in a line to get milk for a long time, and you'd only get this much amount of milk and all of that. And I was like, okay, lines and queues and for things. And so I was like, okay, in a socialist economy back then we're still angry about like the Kohinoor, because like obviously you are Britain into this, so I have to make an Elizabeth reference. So the Indian government then, to like be like, oh, we're also capitalist but we're also cool, they put up these like little kiosk claw machine things where they have like Kohinoor jaise dikhne wale diamonds in there. And everyone gets a chance, and there's a queue to like play the machine, but you do it. And it's so that was the idea. And like I spoke about how India would still be a socialist nation, and our sense of we still have like a colonial hangover, and that was the point of the illustration. Like I could go on like action, because like I actually studied these things. I went to college. So I would have spoken a lot, but you had to give like a 150 word bio like explanation, and it was really fun. And and I was luckily in Delhi for it, so it got like postponed. It was supposed to be in December, but it didn't happen. And I was in January and I was in Delhi, so I got to go visit it. And I was really, it was well done. It was nice.
Okay, good. I'm glad I asked about that because that's something that I found very fascinating. That first I read was happening in the at all, and then the piece I just like because I love the little touches on it. You know, like you, for the social reparations, you put the socials logo. You know, stuff like that. That makes pieces feel a lot.
Like when people look at it and find like little things, because I will put in little things that you have to look for a while to find out.
Yeah, see. I love that. It adds so like just that right amount of depth, and you feel like you can connect with it. Uh, of course. Okay, that's all of the topics that I had written down. So, do you have anything that you want to talk about, or you want to ask me?
No, not really. I'm just trying to think. My brain's really been like mush of late. It's just
Yeah.
like I'm gonna
Is there
do.
anything that you feel like talking about right now? Just off the top of your head.
No, I'm just like really like happy that you asked me a bunch of questions that people don't ask me. Like like how often do you get people like wanting to know more about like what went behind your work and stuff? I think people do, but people find me intimidating, so they don't talk to me.
I definitely found you intimidating for a while, if I'm honest. But then that's good. It's not that it's a bad thing. It's just that you always felt very like you have a powerful presence online.
Wow,
That's what I mean.
Like, I like that.
But like that's what I mean, right? It's not that it's yours, like the scary witch, in a tower. It's just that this fucking iron fist with her. So like, if I was gonna say anything, I'd say it with purpose, because otherwise I'd feel
You're very kind.
like how many people must be bullshitting her the whole day. I don't wanna add to that pile.
No, actually,
That's
though,
like
but I
my
get
main
asked the
thing.
same questions again and again. What does your name mean? What does art whoring mean?
that's
Who is
what I
your
told you right in the beginning.
inspiration? And I'm just like, huh? No. I'm like, I've answered this like about 20 times by now, and I'm just really bored. So I'm just like glad you asked me these questions. That was really fun.
Good. I'm really glad you had a good time. I told you in the beginning. You gave me that wonderful intro saying that your art is about all these different things, and I was like, no, I'm not gonna ask a single question about that.
Wow, yeah. And like at this point, because you get asked for a bio, like you have to have like a set bio in mind, like you will just rat it out anytime. And I don't even like it. I don't even like my bio. Like it's not fun. It's not even me. It's so
Yeah.
serious.
Yeah. See, this all famous people problems, Priyanka. No one's ever asked me for like a set bio about anything. I'm waiting for the time that I have to come up with one because I just want to imagine that, what will I come up with? Am I gonna be the guy who's like in it and like is gonna say the bio every time and play like softball? Am I gonna fuck with every person that tries to interview me?
Yeah, but actually, though, what would you say? That's my question to you. What is your bio, Tanya?
Oh man. Oh man. See, for the longest time, I would not even call myself like a photographer or like a filmmaker or anything. I'd be like, oh, I take pictures.
Dude, honestly, like my Facebook bio still says mediocre artist. And like part of me is like, bro, mediocre. Chutiya क्यों बना रही लोगों को? But like it had to get to a point where I was like, okay, no, I'm now artist now. I'm not mediocre artist, So like I feel you.
Exactly. Because it feels like weird because I've always been me, or like we've always been like normal people, and then to suddenly distinguish yourself in a way that feels like, oh wow, it felt very weird to do that to myself.
Fully and no, it never hits, honestly, Tanya. Like I do not think I'm like some big shot. But I see like people talking about you in third person, like you walk into a room and someone will be like, oh my god, that's Priyanka Paul, and I'm just like, what? Why? Stop it. Like, and I probably sound really like self-obsessed right now even saying this, but it happens and I'm just like, why?
No, I'm sure it happens. I'm sure. I mean, I've seen people around you. That's what I felt it at the protests also. Fucking the energy changed only.
Yeah, so like all of that.
It's
Wait,
great.
would you still didn't answer my question? What will be your bio?
Oh, my bio? Okay. You picked it up. It's the iron fist I was talking about. Making sure you get your answer. For me, okay, so one way I always introduce myself now is because I did it in college on my first day of college. I always say, hi, I'm Tana, and I'm a photographer. But I really like making movies. I really want to make movies as I can. Uh, I like at the base of everything. I like telling stories, and I'm only really good at telling stories and just kind of rambling on forever. And I'm not really good at anything else.
So you guys, you saying storyteller, dude. You gotta say
Yeah.
storyteller.
Yeah, but when you say storyteller, you're like, oh, okay, so you wear like these particular shoes and then like beaded necklace and all, and like rings, and you're very like, wow. I don't know. I don't know. That's what but that's one thing that like really drives me is that I really like changing the definition of things, and that's why, I find people like you and other people, especially here in Bombay, who are doing like different things in the artistic community, because it's all very fascinating, and it's all like, how we're all changing like the definition of the set things that we've just grown up around.
Yeah, like I
I
don't
really
think my
love that
bio
stuff.
stands. Like, like personally, like I do too many things to even fit into a bio.
Exactly.
Like if I had to
That's what.
add, yeah, like I could just like go on, which is great. And that's what the thing is. I think like if you're a freelancer nowadays, I feel like the definition of artist today is that you do so many things. Yeah.
That's
It's
very
very good. It's good. I like this redefinition. This is very gushing.
Definitely was.
I'm very happy that this happened. I will say I was very nervous before, because you're the first person who I've like done a podcast episode with who's not been like a friend for like 3+ years.
Okay, but it's okay. I'm like Isha's friend, so I'm like now.
Exactly. That's what Isha's friend, and we met twice, and we have you know that I'm not like a crazy person.
Yeah, definitely. And I've spoken to like a lot of people, so like this is fine, and this is like I actually know you, so
Yeah, exactly. So no, it's good, and I'm glad that we got to do it.
Same. Yeah, I have been doing nothing whole day.
Neither have I, dude. My day was like doing what I normally do during the day, and then looking at your Instagram profile for like a good 2 hours, and just trying to see what I can figure out and what like not stupid questions to ask.
that you didn't ask one also stupid question. I loved it. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's stop all of our recordings now.
Yes, I am stopping it.
Say bye to the audience.